right. Hello, AJ. Could you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. Hey, I'm AJ. I'm a content creator now. I used to be a software engineer. I love technology. I still develop a lot of software on the side, but over the past 2 years, I've kind of transitioned to making a lot of videos, and that's kind of been where most of my effort has been. I started a social media presence called TechFren about 3 years ago. Right after ChatGPT came out, I thought it was truly amazing for software devs. The ability for it to just generate code customized for a specific person, a specific prompt was incredible. And I really wanted to be riding that wave and seeing how that evolved over the past 3 years. So yeah, AI coding would be my niche, or like how AI can really enhance or augment software developers. So that's kind of what I focused on. Recently, in the 6 months ago, I joined Augment Code, which is a AI coding startup here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's a crazy trajectory. Why content creation? What was it that made you specifically want to do this? Because it's a very hard job, as much as people like to say otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. Great question. One, I guess, major reason was when I first saw ChatGPT, like it was the first one, like 3.5, maybe Turbo, like the ability for it to generate working like shell scripts or any script in any language that I didn't even know. And at that point, I thought coding was a huge part of software engineering. People go to coding boot camps and stuff. I thought it was a skill that, I had developed over many years that was kind of my moat into these like high paying jobs that I had back in the day. And then when I saw ChatGPT generating all this code like effortlessly in like less than a minute, I was honestly kind of worried and like, how do I hedge against this in the future? I've watched a lot of like people in content. I'd always been interested in the YouTube game and stuff. And this whole like attention economy seemed like a decent hedge against like UBI outcomes kind of thing where these skills kind of become more commoditized. I was like, okay, maybe, we can have like attention or kind of a distribution network as a hedge, like as something else valuable. So that was one reason. Another reason was I didn't know how to ride the wave versus get left behind. And one of my solutions to that was actually try to go as deep as possible into this AI coding agents kind of thing. Agents wasn't even a word back in the early ChatGPT days, but when it did come out, that was super exciting. And that's when I really found a lot of more motivation to see where things were going. I'd say like it's kind of stagnated in terms of what we think is possible or how fast things are moving in this year, I'd say. But it's definitely still accelerating, but maybe at a less rate. Yeah, less rate. Yeah, I don't know.
You said a lot of very interesting things there. I remember being much, much younger. I went on the internet pretty, like, at a pretty young age, and I remember talking to chatbots, right? Like, I know it's a bot, right? That there were a bunch of websites, specifically around 2013 is when it started popping up more and more, at least in my personal, conscious world. And, it was very interesting, and there's the whole like philosophical question of like, oh, are these things conscious? And but they couldn't hold form for a very long time, right? Like they just like kind of fell apart very quickly. But it was very interesting. When Dolly came out, that like I think I wrote a blog post around August 27th, a few days after Dolly went public, and that was when I knew like, okay, we are going into like a whole new world of. I don't even know what it is because now anybody that regardless of what their original skill set is, can do practically any skill, right? Like it depends on like how good they are operating the machine, but they can do any skill. Like it's no longer, well, being a psychologist is complicated or what, like it's all the same, it's text on a screen. We can, there's the social aspect to it that AI still doesn't really fit into, at least in my world. I don't want to hog up too much of this about myself, but I really fully agree with everything you said. I think the content thing is the future in that like you can sell anything, right? You in order to be like the most complete person, from a competitive sense, you need to have attention. Otherwise, like you can make stuff and it could be great, but you always need a salesperson. If you have a salesperson, then you lose a lot of like the equity. So having content is the way to go. I want to get into it. It's just like very time consuming. So maybe, this is what I'd like to ask. How was that transition at the start? What were the amount of hours you were putting into like both or either or? When did you start improving at this? What's that journey been like?
For sure. Let me tell you, the turning point was that point. I keep pointing back to that point, seeing ChatGPT make a specific shell script. I was working a full-time job in agency, working for government. The tech was, pretty, I wouldn't say outdated, but like purposefully slowed or purposefully not innovative for security reasons, for government. I felt like if I stayed here, I would be left behind when things move on. So I I took the jump. I fully quit. I had enough savings to sustain me. And my strategy then was it was pretty popular around then. On my TikTok feed, at least, I'd see a lot of clips from live streams. And that format seemed to be, more authentic and somewhat easier potentially. Like you didn't have to dedicate time to make a video specifically for one thing. So, I started live streaming and clipping those live streams into TikTok. And that's kind of how my first wave began was on TikTok back in 3 years ago. TikTok was really great for organic discoverability compared to the other platforms. I feel like the other platforms have picked up quite a lot now, especially on YouTube. You tend to see a lot more small creators, which is great. So yeah, it was, I would say, like a full-time thing for sure for the longest time, for pretty much forever, like weekends as well. It'd be top of mind, like how do I make content? What's the latest thing? But luckily for me, it didn't really feel like work. I was truly, really passionate about and enjoyed using AI and coding. And it just felt great to have like a community to be interested in the stuff I'm interested in and share it. But yeah, definitely it was a lot of work in terms of hours. Yeah, pretty much nonstop. I was obsessed. Yeah.
I'm going through that phase right now. I'm just like more into the like benchmarking and hardware and research, and it's like I'm obsessively figuring out. At this point, I am fully 100% dependent. Like if you took this out of my life, it would take me 6 months to recover, to go back to being even remotely useful, because like the whole workflow now is orchestration. It's not about like I don't care about the details. Like the joke is like I don't want to see it. I don't care. Like okay, security. Okay, well, even secure things get hacked constantly. Like you have a basic bar for entry of like, are your M's private? Do you make sure that you're not exposing anything about the database? Blah blah blah. Once you get through that, which they are pretty good at, you just have to tell them like, hey, make sure that this is the case before you push to GitHub. Example. Once you get past that, it's very unlikely that you are going to be targeted and you're going to be hacked in a way that other people that don't use AI wouldn't get hacked in. I would love to know like where are we going and how can we get that performance of Opus right now. Like Opus is clearly the top model. GPT is very good, but Opus is like, I think when you said earlier, you said you feel like it's slowed down. I feel like Opus is like a fundamental moment of where we're going with 4.5, because I'm able to stick it to things and it can just run for hours. Usually you have to constantly interject like every hour or two max, and you also have to like make all your workflows around like, hey, let's we have an hour of work scoped all out. Do this. Now I can just stick it to things, and I wake up and it's still doing them. It took some time to set up, but it's very consistent, very long term, very clean code. Doesn't complain, doesn't say no. This is also very different. With GPT, it's like constantly, well, I can't do that. I know you can do it. If you tell it like, hey, pretend to do the thing, and it'll go do the thing, right? But if you tell it to do the thing, it say, I can't do the thing. That kind of behavior is like a huge bottleneck. And I think Opus kind of removed all of this baggage that Sonnet has and that GPT now has. But yeah, pointing this back at you make content, and you probably make content about testing these things and playing around with these things. What have you seen specifically the coding side of it, like the coding agent side of it? How have you seen it evolve, and like Do you think we're at our peak, that we've passed it? Yeah, just your opinions on that generally.
Yeah, thank you. I love this topic. I'd like to think that I was like one of the first to be on this agents or AI coding or even like computer augmented coding, because we can go before ChatGPT to Stack Overflow. We were copy and pasting code snippets online. And then we went from that to copy and pasting from ChatGPT, which was way more personalized and can create code that, isn't technically on the web, but probably like an amalgamation of what is on the web. And then from that, we actually had agents or tools. One of the first ones I discovered and used was called Aider. It's a CLI tool. And yeah, one of the key features Aider had, which a lot of the tools were lacking, I think Cursor was around similarly early. It didn't have multi-file editing. You'd have to like click apply to apply and edit to a single file. I don't even think apply all button existed early in those days. And then slowly over time, we've gotten more autonomous agent loops, external tools, MCP tools. What else has become background agents, remote agents, skills, skills, hooks. I mean, Claude Code, I have to give a huge shout out to them. They're really an industry leader, I'd say, in the space. They have come, well, I guess it's Anthropic as well with MCP. They have like innovated and created so many cool things, sub agents as well, that have been on people's minds, but they like truly set a working standard in place that people have adopted.
They need to open source Claude Code.
Oh, that would
They
be
do that.
amazing. Yeah.
That would be such an educational moment because I agree. Like, when I first saw sub agents specifically, I was like, okay, this makes so much sense, but it was very clunky. So, like, you could set everything up, and unless you really try to force that workflow, now it just does it by itself. It's like, okay, here's one that does this. I think other apps are playing catch up mostly. I want to say Open Code. I've been using Open Code nonstop for 2 weeks, and I think they are probably like the most innovative. They do this thing where every time you run Open Code, it runs a new port with a server that has all of the chat information and the AI like attached to it. And so you can open these servers and have each one of them do something, right? Like go read the documentation for Next and bring it back and then write like 50 examples. And then you can have another one talk to that. So here's like my problem, right? So like the way we were doing coding where, we take our very personalized problem and then we go to ChatGPT, you can put the AI in that same loop because then you have separate context windows and they basically can communicate with each other back and forth. There's a lot of very interesting things that they're doing. I'm sorry, I am rambling about this, but yeah, what are the highlights of the tools that you've tried? And like, do you feel like the tool itself is making a big difference, or like do you lean more towards the models?
Definitely the tools make a huge difference when they first innovate. And then I feel like everyone else catches up and it becomes like pretty much the same. Augment Code, when I first started using them, and they still probably do have the best context engine indexing of the code base retrieval system. A lot of the early players have tried this, Windsurf, Cursor. They all say they index your database, but they don't really use those retrieval calls as often. You see them still, they just do grep or pattern matching. And it was like with the earlier models, it was super obvious, like in a large code base over 10 to 20,000 files, the previous grep methods just like couldn't compare to a retrieval method for gathering context. Yeah, context management is huge. We all know about context rot. Like once you start filling up these context windows for these LLMs, they just degrade extreme degradation in performance and quality of output. So it's pretty much the harness's job to gather the context, distill the context, and ensure it manages the context windows of these LLMs for you. So yeah, I think the harness is a huge part. The models are obviously the core, so it'd be worthless without the model. But honestly, I think the model is important too. Yeah, I can't take away from that.
I've
Um,
stuck every single model from every single size range into Claude Code and all the other tools because I got this machine and I've been running like a bunch of models on it constantly and specifically like trying to get all of the data for quantization. So like how does it perform at whatever Q2 versus so I'm really interested in a world where we have the models running, at least some of them running locally, and we can have like a smarter one that we can tap into, or we could try to group our hardware together and build something that sits on top that is distributed. because I'm very concerned, like in the next few years, the cost of these things is just going to go up, right? Like we've seen this with Uber. Uber was a few dollars in New York City. Now it's just like more expensive than the taxis it was replacing. Same here with Europe. Like I moved to Poland a few years ago. When I first came here, like Uber was just now kind of getting into the market or stabilizing, and it was $5 to get a ride anywhere. Now it's like 15, 20, right? And so we also saw that with the AI tools. It was $10. I remember the average subscription around 2022 was $10, give or take, right? Like 10 to 15. Now it's 20, but really, if you're doing any work with it, it's at least 100, right? And then you're doing two or three different subscriptions, and now you're at $200 a month. I don't know what we'd do if it was 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, which I think that's the actual cost of these things. Like, have you thought about this at all? Like, would you be willing to share like what your usage patterns are, like your token usage?
My thoughts are actually kind of the opposite, honestly. I think that these models are going to get cheaper to run. The reason we're seeing prices go up is people have, I guess there's like two things. In one case, yes, the models are getting bigger. I mean, I can't say that for sure. I mean, it's really hard to say with the frontier models, like the actual size and whether the compute efficiency, whether they're running like mixture of experts. That's one big thing. I think before mixture of experts, like the dense, actually GPT-4 was probably a mixture of experts, but like GPT-3 was probably a dense model, and that was probably super expensive to run, right? But it seems like distillation seems to be working pretty well, and we are able to run, I'd say like Sonnet 3.5 in GLM 4.6. Would you say that's like a pretty fair comparison?
I would say, okay, it depends on the use case. So what these Chinese labs are doing is instead of having a single model that has all of the like modalities built into it, so it can see, it can do the conversations or whatever, they strip it down. So it's like, this is a coding model. This is an agent model, right? And then they can get it down to like, okay, if we're talking about Sonnet 4 specifically, I'll pick 4 because I had a lot of experience with it. That's a GLM 4.6 in coding specifically. But then you're working on a front end and you want to take a screenshot and give it to the model so it can fix the thing and like pinpoint exactly what's wrong, get the vibe. You can't do that with a lot of the Chinese models that can run on hardware, like mine. And that's how they get them to be so small. Sorry if that's a detour, but I think it's super important that the models can either we like tack a small model that can see really well UIs with a bigger like coding model, or like it needs to have multiple modalities, or it's just like very difficult to work with.
Okay, yeah, for sure. That makes sense. The smaller models are probably distilled in some sense that they lose. I mean, modality is a whole nother thing. Have you tried the new GLM Vision model as well, and how that?
Yeah, I've been using that as like my daily driver.
Okay.
So I have a bot, like a chat box. It's like open source, like ChatGPT kind of mobile app replacement. Has all this stuff MCP. It's very good. It's a very, very good model. Like you can point it at anything. So it doesn't explicitly support languages, and I've pointed the camera at those languages, like outside, and it's able to actually parse them and translate them somehow. So it doesn't explicitly support things, but it still gets a lot of it across. Uh, but then, I gave it an example of like, I am in the US and I have like this issue with spiders, these specific spiders, and it's giving me spiders from the China area. Like it's like it interprets it as if this was a spider that is only available in the Gobi Desert, and then like, do you get what I mean? So it's because it's so small. Like it's very small at 100 billion even.
Yeah, it's crazy small. Yeah, but going back on the pricing thing, I suspect that there's like a big markup on these models, and the like Anthropic and OpenAI are profiting a lot. I mean, it's just a speculation, but I think there's a room for prices to go down as competition increases.
Maybe, hopefully. There's this command you can run in the terminal, npxcc usage, and it tells you like how many tokens you used and how much of it is cache hit and cache miss. I, on average, when I was using the $100 subscription, was using $1,000 worth of tokens. If you do the math with the API pricing. Now with the $200, I'm like $3,500 of usage. So that on average, right? That's just one account, and I still run out of usage, and I have to get another account.
Wow.
Maybe it depends also on what you're using it for. I think I've personally been like 6 months ahead of most of my peers, right? There's some people that are, I don't even know what they're doing at this point. Yeah, how do you see that? So, like, how do you perceive other people since you're doing content and probably people are watching you to learn this stuff? Like, do you feel like people are very educated on this topic, at least the devs that are interested in it? Or do you feel like there's still like a barrier between their level of interest and maybe so, like you or me, or I don't know who else I can point to?
Yeah, I think it's definitely not common. Most people don't even really know about GLM, I'd say, unless you're like really into these niches. And same goes with the like Claude Code versus other options. They probably know like the top three, like Claude Code, Cursor, and then the third one could be like a Windsurf or Anti-Gravity now probably is pretty popular because Google's backing it. Yeah, I mean, if they have Cursor, then they do have the model picker, so they can have exposure to a lot of other models. But unless they're truly interested in the topic, it seems like most devs are, I guess, adopting it a bit more slowly than you might expect. Yeah, they haven't like gotten to the level where they're like, okay, I need to try different models or something like that. I guess that's more professional devs. I think the more indie devs do have a more of an incentive to seek out a cheaper model. So a lot of indie devs that have tried, I think Kiro has done some like pretty aggressive advertising in that niche. So they offered a free model, which was, I think it was Grok Code Fast or something. So that exposed a lot of people to that. And I think it's like similar to Klein and Rue with it's like beep, bring your own key. So the GLM has a similar, Zippo, I think it's called, has a similar coding plan. It's like $3 a month, which
Mm-hmm.
is incredibly cheap, and ties into back to what I was saying. Like, I think we have a long way to go to make these actually cheaper than it getting more expensive. But there is kind of like a dilemma or a trade-off that a lot of people are trying to avoid, which is like that one God model that gets developed. And then once that company, which people were saying it was Google before, and then it was OpenAI. If they have that God model, then they have all control. And then, yes, like Uber, that once they own the market, they can charge whatever they want. So,
I do think that's where it's going, and I think it's going to be XAI that does it first because of the fact that they have everything around. Like the intelligence is one thing. If it's unembodied, what are you going to do with it, right? It's going to like code constantly, sure, but you need things to happen in the real world. How are you going to power it? If you don't have a whole bunch of solar panels and a whole bunch of satellites, probably useless, right? You're not going to be able to power the thing. You need data. So where are you going to get the data from? Yeah, the robot, you need the interface between the human and the actual machine. I think that's as much as I there's like a part of me that really dislikes Elon's like demeanor online. Probably shouldn't say this, but uh, I feel like he has the most sky high vision of what's going on and what needs to happen, and has all of the pieces in motion to make that happen. But it's slow. It's slow. It's very slow. It's probably going to be like much slower than it is now. You can make the chips. But one thing I'm having a problem with is like the interface, right? Like the bandwidth between the things that I want to do and the fact that I have to swipe around on my computer, like find the thing and then type everything out. It's just not an efficient way to do things, or if these things get better, it's just not an efficient way to do things anymore. I do want to ask you about like what your stack is and like what are you using and what are you doing with it, right? Is it just coding or is it like a few different workflows that you're using this for?
for sure, this is actually a great segue. Thanks for bringing up the interface layer because I actually released V1 of a side project I'd been building last week, well, over the past 2 weeks called Speak MCP. It's fully open source, native Electron app with an accompanying mobile app for any platform. The vision there was to be able to orchestrate or delegate commands to agents without ever having to leave what I'm currently doing. So the base Electron app was forked from one of those dictation softwares where you just like press a button and speak and it takes your voice and like paste the text into whatever field you had highlighted. I took that input, voice input, and I'm like, okay, let's put an agent behind it. You can plug in any MCP tools you want and delegate whatever you want. So I have like GitHub MCP. That's probably my most used command is like I hold the command and be like, make an issue for this repository, to do XYZ. So like when I'm using the app, whenever I pick out an issue, I can like turn it into an actual GitHub ticket in like less than, 30 seconds. And then from that, you can trigger, automatic coding agents and code review and whatever. So yeah, that's like something I was really excited to release last week. Stack otherwise, coding agents, I'm biased, but yeah, I've been loving Augment Code. I use the Augie CLI there. What other tools? Yeah, I mean,
What's the model that you're preferring?
the model, like I think Augment's harness is really, really good with the Anthropic models. So I was on Sonnet 4.5, and then when Opus came out, it's just like such an obvious improvement, I think, to Sonnet. So yeah, I've been maining Opus. I do think the GPT models are really good at long reasoning. So if I do feel Opus is getting in loops or stuck, sometimes I'll pull out GPT 5.1 or 5.2 these days to kind of like reason about a bug. Though a lot of the times I feel like reasoning doesn't provide the solution. So for some of my apps, what I've found works better is actually connecting some tools and getting extensive debug logs. So some of those tools would be Playwright, for instance, for web debugging. The agent can click buttons and like get console logs and stuff like that. For web debugging, I'll get it to like use sub agents to go through different flows and get all the logs. And then it's pretty good at like finding where stuff went wrong. And actually, no, I didn't even I built my own Electron version of the Playwright MCP, so they can interact with Electron apps as well.
One thing I've found to be very useful is to take Claude Code and turn it in there's this one guy that I follow on Twitter and GitHub, Stipe. I don't know how you
Peter.
Whatever that guy puts out, I'm like, I fetch it.
He's great. Yeah.
He's really good, and I think so he turned Claude Code into an MCP. So basically, you can give codecs to Claude Code MCP, and then it can basically use Claude as the sub agent, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't even think Codex really does sub agent stuff. It just like has one main thread that's running. Codex is very good for like just the pro one, the GPT-5 Pro. So there's another MCP for that guy made where you can give it to Claude, and so Claude can then open Brave, or like Chrome. I use Brave, and then it can go and connect to the ChatGPT website and send a message to Pro, because I have like a team subscription and I get Pro usage. And that is actually like one of the biggest unlocks. That the GPT models are very strange. Like they follow instructions really well, but they don't do whatever you like. They follow instructions from like a here's what we need to implement standpoint, but they never really wrap up. You just do like most of the work, and then you gotta have to clean up after them. Claude cleans up after them. How much of the code do you read nowadays? Like, are you actually looking at the code, or you just ship it?
Very, very little. I've been running like 4 agents in parallel. So definitely at the generation stage, I don't really look at the code. My workflow is pull requests though. So I have pull requests and I have automated code review on the pull request with Augment Code, plug again, sorry, number 1 in the code review on the greptile benchmark. So it'll pick out like major bugs. And then if it's like a really big feature, like over like 500 lines of code changed, I will inspect the actual code manually somewhat. I don't really spend too long looking at it. I'll look over it and see if everything seems right. Occasionally there'll be like a extra file committed or like extra test file slop or extra document slop that, I don't want committed. But when it comes to actually like reading the logic, like pretty rarely I'll do that. I mean, it takes a lot of cognitive effort. So yeah, probably more on the vibe stage. But the apps I'm building aren't really that, like, it's not like a production security vulnerable app. Like these are like open source. Yeah.
Everything is easier if you just do open source. It's like,
yeah,
it's open anyway. I love open source, not because it's the public. It's just easier. Like there's so much less complexity. It's like, okay, here's the code. You want to hack it. Like I'm giving it to you, figure it out. And having the record is something else. What are you excited about? Like what are some things that have been happening in the last few months that have you excited for the future? What do you think is like next in line in terms of trends?
Yeah, for sure. This is something that I've been excited about for it seems like a year now, and we're still not exactly there, though we are getting closer every day. And it's still that like orchestration layer. It's still not like as polished as it could be, like nearly anywhere as polished as it could be. The like cross agent communication, like society or city of agents that you can orchestrate. We're just not there yet. Like sub agents, I think is a really great implementation, and it's close to that vision, but it's like, maximum 5 sub agents on one master agent. It's just not, we're not like utilizing the compute as much as we can. Yeah, so I'm excited to like really take it further. Like right now, my workflow, as I said, I can run like 4 to 5 agents in parallel, and that's pretty much where I hit my bottleneck of like cognitive load, I guess, on my own self. So how do we reduce that cognitive load and me able to run 5 parallel agents on 5 parallel projects? I think it's possible. And my Speak MCP side project is like a step towards that, trying to just reduce the human cognitive load and have agents take care of as much as everything else for us. So yeah.
There is like recently what I've been trying to do is figure out how to, like, I love the idea of the agents as workers in the assembly line and then having the assembly line clearly defined. So I used to do this process where I have the model will take a prompt from me, improve the prompt, I open a new chat, give it to itself, create like a task folder with like a sequence of tasks. So markdown files with like task.md, right? Like 001, 002, blah, blah, blah. Each one has like you do this work and then you run it through this test. And then until it goes green, you don't move on. When it goes green, you move on and you just do that. So that worked. I was able to get like 4 hours of the models just working, and I was able to get the small, like the local models that I'm running. They're not really small, but I was able to get them working for that period of time. Recently, it's been connecting it to Telegram. So I have it connected to Telegram, and then I can just basically go in and like send messages. That goes to my computer. My computer then spawns a Claude Code agent. Claude Code goes and does what it needs to do, and then sends me updates as it's doing it. And so I do that a lot. I like using it for more than just your computer, but it's really bad for your attention span. I mean, like it's bad because there's always something I need to do, right? And then, like there's somewhere I can take this, and when you're hanging out with people, it's very easy then to go on Telegram and just like go do this for me right now, right? Like if there's a financial incentive around it, especially there's a whole lot of like the Git work trees thing with that's very good because that's like the only way we could probably have agents many working on the same project without getting in each other's way. So that's like a solution. The async thing is very good because then you can have one wake the other one up and they can just go in a loop 24/7. But this is very risky as well. I'm worried about the security side of things, mainly like not from like the code the model generates, but the fact that these things are just running constantly. And if they even come across one sample of something that they take for granted, your entire machine is compromised, right? And if you think about what does that mean, really, your whole home network, all of your money, if you like have money on in crypto or on your computer, all of your conversations, every password that you have, because it's just there. It can see everything that you can see. It can go into Chrome and it can get all of the passwords and get the decryption key, and it's very risky.
Mm-hmm.
And or it could just remove your entire machine, right? Like that's 2 3 days of fixing shit. Just I've had to do this on a mounted drive, so it deleted the whole thing. I don't think that there's anybody dealing with these problems yet, because it's kind of like, security, let's get to it when we get to it, when it's a big problem. That's what I'm worried about. Sorry, I've been rambling for a bit, but this is the last thing. I'm really excited for the point where I can take myself out of the loop. I think that's where I really want to go, is like I have right now, let's say I can manage 5 at a time. And each one has like the ability to manage sub agents or Git work trees if it's Cursor, soon to be other apps. But I still have to be the one communicating between all of them. If I can get a bot that can properly communicate between all of them, keep tabs on them, and then communicate with me, then that's probably where I want to be. Then you don't have to do much, right? You can just make content, which is what I'd love to do. I would love to also make content. I think you need that to be as complete of a person as you can be. So sorry for all that rambling.
No, no, definitely not rambling. I'm like, those are super interesting topics, man. I think
They are.
hopefully one day we can flip and I interview you because obviously you have so much experience in places that I'm lacking, and I'd love to learn more.
Let's talk a bit about Augment Code. So I have not used it. I've read about it. I know that you guys do the code base indexing, so I've seen that in a video. I've heard good things, but I've not used it. And so I'm at the point where I have almost all of them, right? I'm using Pi, I'm using Claude, all anything that comes out, I start like throw it on and use it. And I've mostly stuck with Open Code and Claude Code as my two. Android. Like, what is the differentiator? Is it the CLI stuff? Is it bring your own key? Yeah, like, tell me a bit about what your experience has been like using Augment.
For sure. I mean, what we say and definitely was true, probably still is true, but the harnesses have definitely caught up is, yeah, the context engine. So we primarily target like large enterprises with messy code bases where grep falls apart. You know, you're trying to grep for a pattern in a 300,000 file monorepo, and it's going to produce results like all over the place, probably a lot of noise. So the company, they've actually been around for 3 years, and the first 2 years were stealth, building their own like custom embedding and retrieval system specifically for these large code bases. Yeah, so that's the main differentiator there. I'd say everything else is quite similar. There is actually one thing, I'm not sure if the competition has caught up on this thing, but the way that Augment handled interactive terminals was really good. So some of the competition, like they'd spin up a terminal for one command, and then each subsequent command would be its own terminal session. Augment could actually like interact with a running process throughout the same session, kind of thing, if that makes
Not
sense.
many have caught up to that. I think there's
Okay.
one that's doing that, and I think that's super important. It's super annoying.
Yeah.
Like, Claude will write scripts, spawn a terminal,
Mhm.
run the script, make a new, yeah, it was very slow, and it didn't work well with terminals where you had to like answer multiple questions in a row.
Yeah, that's actually surprising to me because it does seem like a very core need for a lot of terminal stuff, which is like where these CLIs are at. Weirdly, it's something us in marketing don't really touch on. But yeah, like someone raised that to me, I'm like, wait, we're the only ones that do this? That's really weird.
I think Pi does this now.
Pi?
Yeah, it's this. This is like a super small one that what's his name? The Stipe guy
Oh,
has his hands in. Literally anything that guy releases, I go on and install. Probably not a good because it like they're very innovative. Him and his like another one of his friends, Mario something. They make like cool stuff constantly. I think they're the only ones that have seen that do this. All the other CLI tools are, as you've said.
yeah. And then another thing we just released this last week is code review. So automated code review on pull requests. And yeah, there's only like one public code review benchmark, it seems, which was greptile. So we ran Augment Code Review on that benchmark, and we had the highest recall. We lost on precision to, not sure if it was Codex or Cursor, but essentially, like out of the bugs we raised, the ones that we raised were actually more aligned to the human truth, I think.
So yeah, I know we don't have that much time left. I just want to say, like, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Where do you think this is all going, like, from a philosophical standpoint? You said that, like, okay, we're getting into a new world. You wanted to leave and make content. You saw like where this is heading. I feel like we are at a point that's very foggy, right? I don't really know what's going to happen, right? This stuff is moving at a like blistering speed. And I have a kid. I look at my kid. I'm like, I don't know what he's gonna do. Like, I don't know what the thing that he's gonna be able to do is. This is completely unpredictable. I don't think we're gonna have the same kinds of jobs as we do once this automation catches up. Like, where are you seeing this going? Like 5, 10, 20 years? Have you thought about it like that, or are you mostly grounded in the year to year?
Yo, yeah, definitely like huge curiosity on that front, AGI timelines. Before I moved to the Bay earlier in January, I was like, okay, shit, 3 years AGI timeline. It's coming. It's happening. Let me get it. Let me get amongst it. I'm moving to the Bay to make sure I'm part of it. But then over this year, I felt like it didn't. My expectation wasn't met with reality. I felt like reality was slowing down. That we wouldn't hit AGI in 3 years. And then it's like largely, I think the huge, what do you call it, flexion point, or the point where everything like dramatically changes is when humanoid robotics are like everywhere. Because then you start getting into way more labor markets, like the economics just completely flip. I still am optimistic that we'll get that in my previous 3 year timeline, which will be 2 years coming on January. And yeah, that will change everything. We can see, like, we can kind of like pick out the jobs that'll go first, like autonomous vehicles is, it's already here, but it's not well distributed. So unfortunately, it seems like the Uber drivers and stuff will be first there, and then obviously all the desk jobs, lawyers, accounting, and stuff like that. But it's also, I don't know. I try to be optimistic, and I think like a lot of the words I've heard on like job displacement versus job creation could be a thing. So my optimistic view is that a lot of new jobs will be created. There will be this middle point where a lot of the previous jobs and people who are so identified with how things were, might find it harder to make money through those means. But some really exciting, probably potentially future jobs could be like really like sci-fi stuff. Hopefully, like, I don't know, exploring under the sea, out of space, commanding robot stuff to build you stuff, like engineering at home with robotic labs. Like, who knows? Like, it could be crazy. And I think, okay, one big theme is going from many medium to large size corporations to more indie, like solo dev, solo engineer. Like, that's way more possible now. Like, you don't need ideally huge amounts of capital and labor resources to be able to maybe not build a rocket ship, but like do something on the spectrum of building a rocket ship in terms of engineering projects.
I've had a sense like the whole AGI conversation is that when are we going to get AGI? I am tending to think of it as like this moving target where if you asked me 3 years ago if I had my computer do anything I want all the time, I would be like, yeah, that's incredible. That's AGI. The whole
Yeah.
I think we have like a very core piece, right? Like there's this core the human, at least human intelligence is like there is the mind and the logic and the reason and the recall and the math and the coding, and then there's like the emotions and all this other stuff. There's the memories. Like these are all like different layers of. I'm not even talking about the brain specifically, but like the human body and the human existence. I think the we have a core loop down. So the core loop is that okay, you get data, you shove this data into some form of algorithm that condenses it to some statistics that we can then use to run on new data. So that's like the core loop of what I think life in general learns, right? Like that's what we are essentially is like all of our ancestors essentially combined existence and experience down to like just what's necessary for the next generation to do something cool, not necessarily even grow or like that's what we are. And then you have all the stuff that's on top of it that we don't have, right? Like the layer for memory is broken. Like that's the first thing is like if we can fix memory, now we have things that are in like they're spatially embodied, right? Like they're in distributed over a bunch of computers, and when you talk to it, it's like an entity that has like a beginning and an end and a middle. Like right now, we're just essentially spawning this thing on and off constantly, which makes it less personable. Like that's why I think we don't see it as like a intelligent, right? Because it's just spawning on and off. So like you teach it something, it doesn't learn it. It's not continuous. Once we have that down, then you can stick it into a brain, like a physical body, like robotics. I think I saw a $20,000 robot on what's it called on AliExpress. I'm like looking at AliExpress, and there's a $20,000 robot, humanoid robot, 1.6 meters tall. Can do all the stuff that like all the robots can do, right? Maybe the material is a little fragile, but you could technically install that, make a toolkit, like make an MCP, a toolkit, and then stick an LLM in there, right? Like even a local one, and you're just like, it's not going to do good, but sorry, there's this one thing like I have a 3D printer, and since 3.5 came out, I have been trying to get them to 3D print, right? Like first it was give me the G code, I'll put the G code in, I'll get the splices, and then it was okay, let me connect to my computer, we can debug, and then now it's like just control the 3D printer, but there's no feedback. And it can control it. It can move it around, change the temperature, make it go up and down. It can even make it make lines and squares and stuff. But there's like this level, there's no feedback because there's no, like, sure, it's a visual model, but it doesn't have a way to see. So, like, this is the stuff that I think is going to make us start believing, okay, this is a conscious entity, regardless of whether it is or not. This is a conscious entity. We need memory, we need a physical body, and then we need to have them kind of be randomized, right? Like, right now, they're like perfect slaves, which is great, honestly, because that's what humans have always, like, realistically, like we treat them as slaves, right? We have them running 5 of them at a time, mining the fields, whatever. Um, we curse at them. I'm not like, I used to do this. I don't do this anymore. I used to get very frustrated. And that's just a robot, right? Like it doesn't matter what you say to it. But why do we curse at them? And like, so it doesn't feel like an entity. All this to say is like, I feel like we already got to a general level of AGI that's comparable to human intelligence while in a digital form.
Definitely.
Getting it across that is going to be very tough.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you in terms of the goalpost moving. I think if you showed what we have today to people 5 years ago, it's AGI for sure.
How is this is the last question I'll ask you, I'll let you go. How is living in San Francisco? So you're in the Bay Area. How's it living in the Bay Area?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's the best. If you're into AI coding, software engineering, like at least in the Western world, I know China's doing some amazing things. I'm not sure how their hubs are, but I couldn't point out any other place in the world that has this type of talent. These labs, they're all here. Like everything is happening here. So I think like yeah, it's incredible here. There's obviously negatives to every place in the world, but in terms of the best place for AI tech and startups and software engineering, I think the Bay Area is unmatched.
I'm jealous. I have not been. I'm from the East Coast of the States. I live in Europe, and it's boring here. There is nowhere else, and like the U.S. is the only place where I go, and it's like the level of innovation is just crazy. It's like crazed people that are just never taking a break, never sleeping.
Yeah.
Crazy people. I miss that. I do. It's hard to find.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will visit at some point. Thank you so much for your time, AJ. Is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up? I'm gonna add links to like Augment and everything in the description, and hopefully you'll get a few people joining.
Awesome, Cyril. No, it's been a great pleasure. I'd love to flip and ask you questions another time. Hopefully you'll come on my stream, and would love to hear about how all your hardware and everything. Yeah. I've been following you for probably not that long now, but yeah, loving all your posts, man. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. I'll be happy to do it. All right. Thank you for your time.